moving forward. So if there's anything you want me to make a video on, feel free to drop it in the comments down below. I'd be stoked to do so. Yo, yo, yo. Get this unmuted. What's up, everyone? What's up, Pierre? Did I unmute myself? Yeah. Don't forget to unmute yourself, Pierre.
Oh, there we go. Yep, unmuted.
Yo, yo, yo. All right, everyone. Welcome to first live stream on this channel. First off, Pierre, thanks for taking some time out of your Sunday to swing on by and go over credit. You know, we both love talking about credit.
Yep, this is exciting stuff. You know, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know who Pierre is, Pierre kind of runs his own credit repair company, Newton Consulting. I left a little logo right there. And he does some really great work. Pierre and I have worked together in the past, and there's a lot of great content on my channel for fixing credit and a bunch of good credit strategies to kind of get your credit improved. And anything that's kind of a little more intense knowledge than, or I guess just say anything that's kind of over my pay grade typically comes from Pierre. I usually kind of get with him and figure out what he's doing with his clients to get, you know, higher credit scores, and what kind of tricks and tips he's using, and then I kind of bring him on YouTube. So a lot of the good stuff that I do make content on is actually all thanks to Pierre. So figured let's get live, let's get talking credit, and I know credit's always changing. So you know, you're in the thick of it every day. Like I'm doing mortgages and I'm working on some people's credit, making sure that they can qualify for a home. But I'm not really like in it. I'm kind of on that 10,000 foot, you know, couple little things here and there. Let's get someone's credit up to where it needs to be. But
Yeah.
but you're the real pro. You're the real pro.
I appreciate that, Shawn. I mean, I think our worlds are very blended. I think, you know, the real estate, investments, the loan officing, I think it's blended with the credit. You know, I see profiles from the low 400s, 500s, you know, clients that need help with, you know, clearing up some negative things on their reports, and just helping people overall build their credit score. I think, you know, like you said, a lot of times people don't know what's on their credit, and that's where we come in to help them out.
Yeah. Yeah, and so just so everyone kind of knows, I mean, the big reason why I've kind of gotten into credit a little bit is because obviously to get a mortgage you need to have decent credit, and typically, you know, if you've got under a 500 credit score, you can't get a mortgage at all, but most people will say above a 580, and so typically when someone's close, I'll see if I can kind of do a couple little things here and there, but we bring in Pierre a lot of the times when we need a big kind of credit overhaul. So if you guys have any questions, I see a couple people in chat, appreciate you guys swinging by. Do you have any questions about credit, just throw it at us. I want to go over a couple things that I constantly get asked about credit, that is, you know, either I haven't made a video on it yet, or it's just a little bit over my pay grade. But keep asking questions, because every credit scenario is completely different. So if you have something specific to you, then definitely throw that on. But the biggest questions or set of questions that I constantly get, which Pierre, I'm sure you do a lot of work on this, is collections. Collections is probably like the biggest thing, you know, that I get questions on for raising credit scores. So can you walk us through the different types of maybe like, you know, a collection versus a charge-off versus a paid collection? Kind of just give us some background on collections so people can get a little more info on that.
Yeah, for sure. Just to start, I mean, like I said, I look at profiles ranging from different scores, but a lot of times those collections can really affect a credit score. And like Shawn said, there's different types of collections. There's charge-offs. Usually charge-offs are credit cards, you know, old bank loans that, you know, people don't pay on time and end up just getting behind on those. and those end up charging off. But a lot of times these collection agencies, which are pretty much when, say, you have a Chase credit card, and you end up, falling behind on those payments, and you end up not paying it off or not catching up on those payments. They end up selling your account to a third party. That third party is a collection agency, and that's when you usually get those collection accounts. And those collection accounts can really hit your score. And a lot of times, those collection agencies don't follow the rules as far as reporting correctly. They might have a certain balance that's off. A close date might be off. A lot of times those, like you said, those accounts are really interesting. But for us, what we look for is any inaccuracy or any inconsistency as far as reporting on that account. We try to attack those with, different dispute letters, and just really make sure that those collection agencies are, looking at your accounts the right way.
Right.
A lot of times you'll look at a collection account, the balance will be off by $1,000, right? When it's off by $1,000, guess what? It's not reporting correctly. It's not abiding by their certain protocols, which means they have to remove that account.
Boom. And knowing things like that is super important, because I know I work with a lot of people who, and actually we just had this convo, I think, Pierre, me and you had this like last week. Someone has, a lot of collections, and they just want to be like, oh, let me just pay them all off and get rid of them all. But if those balances are off, it can actually save you tons of money by just being able to get it completely deleted. Also, I've talked about this a bunch in my videos. There's a massive difference between paying off a collection and having it show as paid versus actually getting it deleted. Major difference in what it will do to your score. So that's all important stuff. And since we're kind of on the topic of this, I saw a question from Champion of Justice. How to get rid of a charge-off from Bank of America. They're so stubborn, it's affecting my credit score. So when something's in a charge-off state, what options do you have for getting it removed from your report?
I would say the basis of it is just to review that account. I'm not sure what credit monitoring, system or app you're using, but make sure you guys kind of stay away from the Credit Karma. I think Credit Karma is great to get an overall look at your report, but I would say looking at an Identity IQ or maybe your MyFICO, you can really look at the account and see the details of that account, right? You want to look at the balance, you want to look at the statement dates, you want to look at anything on that account that gives you detail on what's going on with it. You want to look very closely at that, because if there's anything that's wrong or inaccurate with the way it's reporting, it can be deleted. So I think that's the main thing you want to look at. And to be honest, like I said, if you're getting calls from any collection agencies or anything like that, please don't respond to any of their calls. A lot of times they don't abide by certain rules, and them calling you multiple times is actually an offense on their part. So if you do have any collection accounts or charge-offs, make sure you look at the account in detail, go over it, and if you see anything that's inaccurate, send a letter to the credit bureau, and also send a letter to the creditor as well.
Right, and I think that's important what you just said. So a lot of people will send dispute letters to the actual, collection agency or whoever's holding that debt, but it's important to actually send that letter also to the credit bureau, because sometimes, and I see it all the time in terms of like old collections, is someone will have a old collection on their credit report, but it's only reporting to Equifax, and the other two bureaus actually aren't reporting it. And it's actually not an error on the collection company, it's an error on the credit bureau, which is kind of what a lot of people don't think is possible, but it is possible and can be solved a lot quicker if you're kind of tackling them both. Now, that's not always the case. Some collection agencies will only report to one or two bureaus because it's cheaper for them. They know, you're going to get hit by it either way, whether they're reporting it on one bureau or all three. But that's just kind of something else I always like to talk about. And then I see this other question from Webb's Love. So I actually haven't had a whole lot of experience with this. So I've got kind of a question with this as well. But you were
Yeah.
handed a notice to appear for a pre-trial conference slash mediation regarding a credit card that went to collections. I've never had any experience with that, Pierre. I'm not sure if you have.
Yeah, I have. I mean, the main thing is if the account has gone to collections, you want to make sure that you pay attention to your report, see how it's reporting. Um, Collection agencies, they have to abide by the Fair Debt Collection Practice Act. And that's pretty much like their law, okay? And before you panic, before you do anything, you want to make sure that you validate or get a debt verification letter. Okay? You want to send that debt verification letter to this collection agency first to make sure that the debt is yours. And first, you want to make sure that they're able to verify this date or this debt, verify this debt with some sort of signature from you before you guys kind of move forward. I know a lot of times, you get these calls, you get these letters, and you start to panic. The main thing you want to do first is just kind of verify that that debt is yours. You want to verify that everything on that debt is accurate before you move forward. And this is very important. Keep documentation from any contact that you have with these collection agencies. I think that's very important. You want to keep as much information, as much evidence as you possibly can, just to kind of help you with the dispute process and help with removing these, collection accounts from your credit report.
Yeah. And I'll see. So kind of follow up. If you've tried dispute letters and haven't gotten anywhere with them, Pierre, what's kind of the ruling on? I know there's some certain time frames from when you do mail something or send a dispute letter. Are there certain time frames or certain things that they have to abide by? Provide a response by, like, they have up to 30 days or up to 60 days, and then if they don't abide by those, what happens?
Yeah. So I mean, it's funny because they changed the time frame so much. But I like to say anywhere from about 30 to about 45, 50 days, they have to respond. Especially if you send, this is very important, you need to make sure you send these letters certified mail. If you don't send the letter certified mail, they won't take it as serious. And I like the certified mail because you can track it, you can see if they actually received it. And that's very important too. I mean, if you don't get a response within, like I said, that 30 to 50-day range, you want to follow up with another letter that's kind of escalating the dispute. And once you escalate it and you still don't get a response, there's other avenues you can go and contacting the CFPB, which is the Consumer Financial Bureau, which overlooks the credit bureaus. And there's just different ways on disputing if you don't get that response.
I like it. And then I know we've kind of been hitting on collections a good amount. I want to get your kind of take on. So I know when you work with a client to repair their credit. I mean, I know there's always the low hanging fruit that both of us go for. I mean, when I get a client who's like, hey, I need to get my credit score up, 15, 20 points to be able to qualify, I look for the low-hanging fruit, which is the stuff that I talk about on this channel all the time, the low credit utilization, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the one thing I've always struggled with is the credit inquiries. Now, I've made a video on this. I don't want everyone freaking out. I made a video on credit inquiries. They don't impact your report that much, but if you have a bunch of them, then they can add up and start actually impacting your score. I feel like recently, within the last maybe 4 to 6 months, the process for getting them removed is a little bit different on each of the bureaus. And I know that's something that you like almost immediately when someone gets started. You're like, all right, let's get these inquiries removed because they're easy. What's kind of the process for that? Because I know that in the past you could just like call and be like, hey, this was unauthorized, get it removed. But I feel like now it's a little bit stricter. Have you ran into stuff like that?
Yeah, the industry changed a lot. These bureaus, they change their protocols and their rules a lot. I would say credit increase was probably one of the things, like you said, that we started with because it was kind of the easiest avenue to kind of help boost scores quick. But yeah, it's becoming a lot more difficult. There's different ways you can call. I think the best way right now is to make sure if you are disputing, multiple inquiries, try not to go past more than 4 or 5. And the reason why is because you want to make sure that the credit bureaus aren't looking at your dispute process as, overbearing or just trying to remove all these inquiries. You want to make sure you attack maybe 3 or 4 and look for some of the older inquiries instead of looking at some of the current ones. And I have different, letters for the inquiry removals and things like that that I would love to, share with people and maybe help people, remove 1 or 2 inquiries or help them, on track with removing some of those inquiries. But yeah, like you said, it's a lot different now. I know Experian was one of the easier ones as far as calling in and getting them removed. Even they're a little bit more strict. So I think right now, just focus on, removing 2 or 3 inquiries. And another tip would be to clean up the personal information. I know a lot of times when I do, yes, I'll let you go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you pretty much because I know that's like the next thing, right? You start with inquiries and then you start with personal information. And just to give a little background, when you get a full credit report, and I saw there was a good question from King Bob in there, so we'll get to that in a little bit. But when you get a credit report, I mean, there's information, it could be, I mean, years and years old. It could have addresses on it that you previously lived at. It could have different aliases, like different names you used to go by. It's very common with females, having like maiden names versus what their current name is. And these are good things not only to get cleaned up on your report to maybe boost your score, but also when you're trying to apply for mortgages or maybe other types of loans, mortgage lenders, us as mortgage lenders, we have to question everything on a credit report. So the thicker and fuller that report is, the more documentation and building of the file we have to get. I mean, for every address that's on your credit report, we have to get a letter of explanation from you stating whether or not you have ownership interest in that property still, or if it was just a rental or whatever it was. So it's not just a good idea to get it cleaned up to raise your score, but also it just makes your process and your file a lot easier with everything, which is always great. So now, Pierre, I'll let you kind of talk on what you do to clean up kind of that personal information.
Yeah, so personal information, I think is overlooked. Like you said, especially when you're dealing with, accounts in, low 500s or maybe the low 600s. They have a few collections, they have a few inquiries that they don't really recognize. Sometimes you see a long list of addresses, phone numbers, employers, names. You want to make sure that you have the name that you use when you apply for credit, whatever name that is. You want to make sure that that's the only name reporting on your report. Okay. Then you want to move on to your phone number. You want to make sure you clear up all those old phone numbers, all those old work, business, whatever it is. You want to have one phone number on there. Same with the employer. You want to make sure the employer is up to date. And a lot of times what happens is with these old addresses, old names, they're tied to these different accounts, right? These different negative accounts, these different old accounts that you don't recognize, maybe a credit inquiry that you're like, wait, I never applied for Chase Bank. And when you remove these old addresses, now those accounts that are connected to it have to be removed as well. If they're not removed, now when you send those dispute letters, right, you're like, hey, I don't recognize this account. They run their investigation and they're like, hey, this address doesn't match with, the address that we have on file. So this account needs to be removed. And I think, that's kind of the first step as far as taking control of your credit, is just going on there, looking at, the personal information. And a lot of times that stuff is a lot easier to move in comparison to like a collection account or a credit inquiry. You can go online, you can call Experian, you can call Equifax, you can call TransUnion and get those removed pretty quickly. I know they have really long hold times, so if you don't want to be on hold for a couple hours, you can make sure that you can send in a dispute letter and just saying, hey, these addresses are wrong, these phone numbers are wrong, these employers are wrong, please get these handled. And they're usually pretty fast at getting those removed. But like you said, I think that's probably One of the biggest pieces that I've learned through this whole process is that personal information holds weight. It
Yeah.
does hold weight. And if you can take control of that, you're already halfway through the process.
Yeah, and I think that's big in understanding the big picture on things because, you know, and I don't ever have any bias. Like I see a credit score that's the minimum 350, and I see a credit score that's 850 at the highest end. I don't have any bias for those people or for what's going on because I've learned to just accept that people go through things in life that ends up impacting their credit. I mean, for once, I had a client whose husband basically passed away. Luckily, he was actually revived. I think he was pronounced dead for like over an hour, but then he was revived. But there were so many medical bills and medical collections that ended up happening because of this one life event. And so I never questioned anything like that, but I'm kind of saying that because the biggest thing is when you owe money and you have a collection or maybe a judgment, which I want to get into a little bit later, but let's just say you owe money. At the end of the day, you owe that money. Now,
Yes.
you're lucky if they make a mistake in reporting and you get it deleted, you don't have to pay for it. That's great. You lucked out. But at the end of the day, you do owe that money. So it's always going to be harder to get that removed, something that you owe someone money who wants their money back. It's going to be way harder to get that removed versus personal information that doesn't have any monetary value behind it. So that's why I like how Pierre's always like focusing on those low-hanging fruits. All right, let's tackle these little things that we can get removed and get a score up 100 points, and then we'll work into some of those deeper ones. But piggybacking off of that topic before we move on, I saw Yusuf kind of talked about how maybe the process is a little different between different bureaus. So do you have kind of anything to add to that, making it, that like experience a little more challenging?
Yeah, I mean, TransUnion and Equifax have always been very responsive through the letter process. So, sending TransUnion and Equifax letters have been very successful. Experian is kind of a mix between letters, maybe throwing in a couple phone calls here and there. And I think Experian has done a really good job with the customer service as far as not having the really long hold times in comparison to TransUnion and Equifax. But just having different avenues of disputing is very important. Phone calls, sending in certified mails, making sure that if you're not getting the responses that you need, or if they're not responding at all, contacting the CFPB. If you're dealing with collection agencies, going through the Better Business Bureau. There's different ways on disputing and getting the results that you want. So I guess the main thing is just knowing the different steps to take. Obviously, you want to start with the letters, and if those don't work, you can go to CFPB or the Better Business Bureau. But there's definitely different ways of going about it, and you're totally right. Different bureaus go about it different ways. But yeah, if you're dealing with Experian, you might call in. If you're dealing with TransUnion or Equifax, you might use the certified mail and the CFPB.
Yeah, I like that, and I'm actually got a video I've planned that I want to be releasing in the next couple of weeks on differences between the three bureaus because a lot of
Yeah.
people like to think that they're government-held entities that are like all the exact same, but they are three completely separate companies. Think of it like Burger King, McDonald's, Jack in the Box. They all kind of are restaurants, but they all are completely separate entities. They do not talk to each other. They're completely
Yeah.
different. So I'm kind of excited to release that video because I'll break that down a little bit further. But I want to jump into King Bob's question about can a collection agency put the remark affected by natural disaster on a collection even if you haven't been affected by a natural disaster? I've never heard of that before. I've never even seen anything on natural disaster.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, you know what? A lot of times, like I said, with these collection agencies, they don't follow their rules. They don't follow the guidelines that, like I said, these collection agencies are supposed to follow. A lot of times they'll throw different things on accounts and you're just kind of like, wait, what? That never happened to me. Well, guess what? They're reporting something incorrectly. And you can use that, right, to get it removed. You can use that to contact the Better Business Bureau and be like, hey, they're reporting this on my account. This never happened to me. right? This has never happened, and you can use, like I said, it's very important to keep evidence and documentation on if you do have any communication with that collection agency. If you don't, that's fine, but make sure that you show the detail of that account. And for instance, let me just give you just a quick example. I actually dealt with something similar to this. That had something on a collection account that basically wasn't theirs, right? The balance was, I believe, was reporting at 12,000, and I believe the balance was supposed to be at like 4,500 or so. And they had evidence of this, obviously, through, our documentation through the loan that they had beforehand. But when it got sold to the collection agency, the details got mixed in, and the collection agency ended up reporting something totally off. And it's so easy to get these things removed. You print out your credit report, you circle it, you show them evidence of what the amount should be. In your case, hey, I was never in a natural disaster. This never happened. Boom, remove. So I think just for you is just to pay attention to the evidence, and if you have to, contact the Better Business Bureau and get it removed.
Nice. Yeah. So I've ran into a couple of different scenarios with like natural disasters on other things related, like unrelated to credit. And I know that there's always different ways that they're kind of treated versus like normal things. I just didn't know that was in credit, so that's definitely something new for me that I learned. You learn something new every day. This is another good question from Sync. If I clear address and account MS, does that shorten my credit history, thus affecting new credit approval and score? And I've got a similar question on this, Pierre, is a lot of times I'll get or I'll see a lot of accounts on a credit report, like old credit cards, and they're just showing paid and closed and whatever. And I know that obviously the more credit lines and the longer history you have, obviously the better your score. But when you, because they still stay on a credit report for a while, just showing like pay that they're not active, but they're still on there. When you do clean up those names and addresses, what does that do to that? Does it come off and then immediately? Because you're kind of doing two things. You're cleaning up personal information, so it should improve your score, but then also maybe you're removing an older, like, paid closed account. My thought process is that paid closed account is already, affecting your score, so getting it removed isn't going to change anything because that doesn't have any weight, but I don't know, I could be wrong. What do you think?
No, actually, that's a really good question. Just to piggyback off of it, the main thing is, if you do have those positive paid closed accounts, and you're worried about getting those removed because they might be tied to an old address, all you have to do is get in contact with that creditor. Make sure that your name is reporting how you want. Make sure that your address is reporting how you want. Update an employer on that account. So now, the way you want your personal information to be reported, right? Now that account is tied to that, and it's not tied to that old information that you're getting removed. So that's very important. Make sure that all your positive accounts have all your current information. And it's literally just calling in. Say you have a Discover card that you had, I don't know, in 2018, it's paid, closed, perfect payment history, but the address is old. Call in, make sure it's updated, boom, taken care of.
That's actually pretty cool. I didn't even think about that, but I guess that's a good way to do that before you get everything that's tied to that address removed, and then you keep that.
Exactly.
Super.
No, that was a really good question. That's a really good question.
Yeah, I've never even kind of had that come up. And then also on top of that, so a lot of people always ask me too, Shawn, I opened up a credit card like when I was younger. It's a crappy card, $300 limit, maybe a secured card, maybe not. But there's no real benefits. I just want to close it and get a new one. And typically what I'll tell people is most of the time that credit card is being held by a big credit card company who has tons of other cards that they can upgrade that card into. So I usually tell them to go upgrade that card. But is there another option or something else that people could do for that, or?
No, I think like you said, the best thing to do is upgrade that card, maybe increase the credit limit. I don't really like closing accounts. It's weird. With closed accounts, sometimes it can affect your score in the short term, but in the long term, In retrospect, it won't really hurt your score because you're still building maybe through different avenues as far as paying your mortgage or your car payments or getting different credit cards. Um, but if you're looking to apply for credit in the short term, I don't like closing out accounts. Obviously, if you have to due to financial reasons, I totally understand. But yeah, if you're looking to kind of keep growing your report, I would definitely say to maybe increase your credit limit or just upgrade the card. A lot of times, those secured cards, maybe you've shown to the bank, like, hey, I've been paying on time for 3 years. I increase my credit limit, maybe make it unsecured, and they can make it happen for you. That can definitely help your score as well. So yeah, just look into maybe different avenues as far as maybe increasing the credit limit or just applying for a different card through that same bank or just upgrading.
Yeah, and that's something important that I learned when I was kind of upgrading some of my cards is these banks or these credit card companies would, they want to keep your business. So if you call them and you're like, hey, this card kind of sucks. I've had it for like 4 years. I barely use it because I get like 0.5% cash back. It's got a $300 limit. Like it's just I'm not using it. They're gonna want to keep your business. I've talked to a lot of credit card companies which is something kind of crazy, and I've always thought about doing, but like I want to make a video on it. Is when you guys see cards like an Amazon card, or you see like a Best Buy card, or you see one of those other cards, it's basically the exact same card with the exact same bank or credit card company, and all it is different branding and different like specific rewards for that company. And I've talked to a lot of credit card companies about this. Mainly with other things that I do, like with Direction Desk. But the thing I wanted to mention about that is they are so they're so protective over their consumers or over the people who use their credit cards. For example, a lot of airline companies during the pandemic, they actually survived because of their credit cards. Their credit cards were the things that kept them on the balance sheets, like in the black and not in the red. So it's a very big importance to them. So when you are like calling saying your card isn't like good enough or whatever, they're doing everything they can to keep your business, and there's a really good chance that they're going to give you a higher credit limit. They're going to give you a better card. Because at the end of the day, they're still going to win. Like they're still going to win if you're going to not pay your cards on time and all these other things. So they want to keep your business, and I know it's nice to be able to go, oh, this new flashy X1 card just came out. I want to go open this. I can't upgrade into that, so I just want to go get it. But when you actually look at the cards, and I've made videos on this, they're all pretty similar, and you typically want to just upgrade so you're not closing those accounts, which is kind of cool there too.
No, 100%. 100%.
Yeah, no problem for sharing a lot of the credit card information. I mean, as Pierre and I know, it's not common knowledge. And Pierre's story is actually pretty cool with kind of learning credit, just getting into the books and learning all about it. And I think it's a lot of people hate credit. I think it's a cool industry because it's constantly changing. It's not a static, here's how you get to 850. It's all based on your peers. And so the more information that's up to date, the better off you're going to be. And if you're not watching videos or you're not learning about this every day, you're going to have no idea. So I think credit's always fascinating for me, and again, I kind of stick on the 10,000 foot level. Pierre's like in the trenches every day with it. So. And then one thing I want to talk on real quick, kind of before we probably get wrapped up, is judgments and some of the more intense things on someone's credit report. So judgments, the way I like to think of them, is an escalated collection. It is something that it's not just hey, this is just a collection, you owe this company or this debt collector money. No, it's like a full blown, maybe you had a lawsuit that you didn't show up to court on, and whatever think of it like the government or the city or whichever governing body of that debt turned it into a judgment. And like these things are hardcore. So have you had any success getting judgments removed? I mean, usually when people ask me questions about judgments, I'm kind of like, attorney. Like you need to talk to an attorney. I don't know.
Yeah. No, judgments are tough. Let me start with this. The thing about credit repair is we're cleaning up inaccuracies, we're cleaning up errors, we're cleaning up, basically the way it's reporting on your report. That's what we're attacking. We're attacking the credit bureaus, we're attacking these collection agencies. But if you do owe something, you will have to pay it at the end of the day.
Right.
And setting up a payment plan or setting up a settlement with with a certain company, those are all things you can look at. But if you owe something, you'll probably end up having to pay. But kind of just jumping off that as well is with these collection agencies, like I said, they don't follow their guidelines well. And if you can show any errors or inaccuracies in the way that you're reporting something on this collection account, or one of the things I like to ask my clients is, hey, have you been in contact with a collection agency? Have they been calling you? Have they been reaching out to you? What's going on? Because collection agencies actually have a certain amount of time that they're able to call you or allowed to call you within a day. And if it goes over that, they have to. So if it goes over that, they basically are giving up their rights to report your account. And it's crazy because they have, it's called a Fair Debt Collection Practice Act. And there's rules and laws they have to follow. I would say if you have a judgment, please look at the Fair Debt Collection Practice Act. And it will kind of help you understand what guidelines the collection agency must follow, especially to receive that debt. And I can send this to Shawn so he can maybe share it with everybody. But they have a PDF online. You can pretty much Google it and just kind of, open it up and just check out the different laws and guidelines that these collection agencies have to follow, because every day they're breaking something. And if they break one thing, that's the easiest way to get it removed. So I think if you have a judgment, again, if you owe a debt, you'll have to pay it. But pay attention to the Fair Debt Collection Practice Act. That's so important. That's probably the biggest gem that I can give you tonight. Just kind of pay attention to the laws and the rules that these collection agencies have to follow. And also the credit bureaus as well. There's certain things that they have to follow, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they won't respond to a letter. And those things are all cases in which you can get an account removed or something fixed on your credit that's reporting incorrectly.
Yeah. And that's, I was going to kind of follow that up with a story too. So I had a previous client, we actually ended up closing on their house. So typically if there's a judgment on your report, it's got to be settled before you buy a house or refinance a house, because essentially that judgment's going to take precedence over pretty much any other type of debt. Because you got to think of debt. The way debt happens is, I'm talking big debt here, not like collections or credit cards. But the way that debt works is it's all in lien positions. And so whatever's in first lien position or whatever's the oldest like debt you owe, that one is always going to be paid first. So if you owe, well, besides the IRS, like if you owe money to the IRS, like they're the government, they're going to win. But you've got like levels. So if you've got a first lien, let's say your mortgage, and then a judgment gets put on, that judgment was put on after your mortgage. So if anything happens, that mortgage is getting paid essentially first. But when you go to purchase or refinance, that new mortgage is now going after the judgment, which means the judgment's going to start taking precedence over that mortgage, and no mortgage company is going to lend, $250,000, $400,000 if a judgment's going to get paid before the mortgage. So those things kind of always have to be settled. And a story I had was there was a small judgment, and judgments can range. Any type of debt can range a lot, but this is a small judgment, which anything small is $10,000 or less, which I know is still a lot of money, but I've seen judgments that are like $90,000, $100,000. So this one was like $2,000. Client did not want to pay it, was basically going to talk to an attorney. And the general gist that I learned from the whole scenario was the attorney was doing the exact same thing that Pierre just mentioned. They were essentially like, let's find any sort of inaccuracy on this judgment to get it removed, because otherwise you're not getting this removed. And,
yes,
they would have spent far more than $2,000 to try to get that judgment removed than just paying it outright. So they were like, all right, let's just pay this out. Let's close this home purchase and move on with it. So you got to pick your battles, intelligently, because Now, if that judgment was like $50,000, yeah, it might be worth spending 5 to 10 grand on an attorney to get it removed because you're going to end up saving money. But yeah, you just kind of want to think about those things before you start getting into that argument of just not wanting to swallow your pride and just pay some.
Yeah, and I think you said something very important. It's like, don't put a price on, credit repair or credit consulting. Like we're dealing with debt from $40,000 worth of debt or $50,000 worth of debt, and people are like, that's kind of expensive, for credit consulting or credit repair. It's like, hey, we're dealing with serious numbers here. I mean, if you go about it, through these different creditors, you're going to end up paying, say you owe $40,000, you end up paying maybe $30,000 just to settle some of this debt, and it's still going to be on your credit report.
Yeah.
So don't put a price on it. I mean, we're dealing with serious accounts, serious debts, different liens, judgments. I think it's very important, like you said. It's like, if you have a chance to get it removed, let's just get it removed. If you have a chance to find someone, maybe it's not myself, but if you have somebody that you have in mind that can help you with your credit report, find them, go through your credit report in detail, figure out if there's anything reporting inaccurately, and start sending out dispute letters if you can do it yourself. But if you can't and you're looking for someone, please book a consultation with me. I would love to talk to you, talk credit, and help you get on the right path for sure.
Yeah, and I've got Pierre's website linked down below. And then right before we wrap up, I want to kind of break down the process of how it typically works for, I would say, most people who kind of start this kind of fixing their credit. Is most people try to apply for some sort of debt, whether it's a mortgage, car, whatever, and realize, oh crap, my credit score is not where it needs to be, or oh crap, I can't qualify for something, I need to fix it. And that's when I kind of look at it, if they're applying for a mortgage, let's say, I kind of go, all right, here's what I think is the path of least resistance to get you to qualify. And even that is going to be the bare minimum. So that's going to get you into a home. Like I've done so many mortgages where it's a two-step plan. The first step is get you into that home, so now you're in the home, but your mortgage payment's really high with a high interest rate. After you get into a home, get with Pierre or get working on your credit in general. Take a couple months to really get it straight and then refinance later. But first of all, people will kind of try to get new debt and then realize they can't. So then they go to fixed credit. And the biggest mistake that people will make, and Pierre can definitely stand by this, is people start going online and trying to find the cheapest credit repair out there. And most of these companies are going to be charging you a small monthly payment of, let's say, $50 to $75 a month. And they're going to do absolutely nothing. They're going to send you an email and be like, all right, pay down your credit card. And you're going to be like, wow, I spent $50 for this person to tell me to pay down my credit card. Don't always look at the price of credit repair and think, I'm saving money by going with this company. Because, guys, I've worked with probably like 15 to 20 different credit repair companies, and there's a lot of credit repair companies who just try to keep you on that monthly retainer and don't really do a whole lot to actually fix your credit. So, like Pierre was saying, you're dealing with a lot of debt and you're dealing with your livelihood. You want to make sure that you're actually fixing your credit, and things are actually progressing more than just, yeah, pay down your credit card, or, oh yeah, like, we sent a letter and they're not budging. Like, no, you need someone in your corner fixing your stuff, because if not, you're wasting your money and you can do that on your own. I put out so much content on information on fixing credit that you could potentially do it yourself, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't have time. They don't do it correctly. They end up wasting your time. That's why you want to talk to a pro like Pierre to get it done quickly and effectively, and obviously save you a bunch of money. So that's kind of the process that a lot of people go through. And don't think about my credit score is not 800 in 30 days. This is useless. Like, it's gonna take time. Okay, it sucks that credit will drop in an instant, but to build that back up, it's really hard. I always use this example, and some people laugh, some people think it's inappropriate. But let's say you're dating someone, all right, and you're married. Let's say you're married and you have this really tight connection. Things are going great. This is your 800 credit score, right? Things are going great. Well, now you just cheated on your wife. Think about her trust with you. It's immediately going to drop. That's going to go down to a 400 credit score. You just cheated on your wife. And sure, if you go to your wife the next day and say like, "Look, I'm a changed man. All right, I'm not gonna do that again. I'm gonna do everything right moving forward." Do you think she's instantly going to be like, "Oh yeah, we're back to where we started before. Here's your 800 credit score." No, it's going to take time to build that trust back up with your spouse and get back to the level that you were at before. And it's the exact same thing in the finance world. Creditors and people lending money or people whatever giving lines of credit. You make one mistake, it sucks, but you make one mistake and like you're instantly in the doghouse. And then to get back into the house, it's you got to prove it and you got to put in the work to get up there. So don't get discouraged because it does suck, but it just takes time. And as long as you're doing the right thing, it's gonna happen. It's not like you're not gonna make progress. So. Yeah. Anything again? Pierre's info is linked down below. I think that's where we're gonna call it. I don't want to go too late on this live stream. I appreciate everyone coming and stopping by. Obviously, Pierre, thanks for swinging by. Hopefully this information's helpful. It's gonna turn into a video on YouTube. So if you want to go back and look at a couple things we talked about, then feel free to. And yeah, anything else, Pierre?
No, thank you for having me. Let's keep doing this. I want to make sure that we're educating everybody on important and help people get their credit in order. And like Shawn said, if you have any questions or if you are looking to maybe repair your credit, please reach out. Please reach out. I'm looking for a few new clients. I'm gonna probably cap out this month at like 5 clients. So just because it's been crazy, a lot of new clients, a lot of new business opportunities, and I want to make sure I'm giving you guys really good work. So I want to cap out at 5 new clients. So 5 new consultations. That's what I'm looking for.
Right on. Well, sounds good. Again, everyone, thank you for coming. And I don't really know how to end this thing besides a cool way to end it. So I'm just gonna hit the end stream. Again, appreciate everyone coming and.